Black Top Gun's Dushu combat missions, the fighter jet 2 advanced for him a story of courage, faith, and triumph. By System Generated. The Unseen Giant. The humid air of the Pacific Theater clung to Captain James Morrison like a second skin, heavy with the scent of salt, aviation fuel, and distant jungle. It was 1940 and the war raged across the vast expanse of the ocean, a brutal dance of steel and fire. James, known to his squadron as Black, stood taller than most, his frame lean but powerful, his seas holding a depth that spoke of battles fought both in the sky and on the ground. He was an African-American fighter pilot, a rarity in a military still grappling with segregation, and his presence in the all-white Tinsubialisen fighter squadron on the remote island of Peleli was a constant, unspoken challenge to the established order. His current challenge, however, was not just the enemy, but the machine he was meant to muster, the Fshat Tigercat. It was a twin-engine behemoth, a marvel of engineering designed for speed and firepower, but notoriously difficult to handle. Its raw power was unmatched, but its quirks, a tendency to stall at low speeds, a complex hydraulic system, and a landing gear that often buckled under stress, made it a beast only the most skilled pilots dared to tame. Colonel Richard Hartley, the squadron's commanding officer, had made his skepticism clear from day one. Morrison, Hartley had sighed, his voice laced with a condescending drawl, "This bird is temperamental. It takes a certain finesse. Are you sure you're up to it?" The unspoken implication hung heavy in the air, a familiar burden James carried with quiet dignity. James had simply met Hartley's gaze, his own ease unwavering. "Sir, I'm here to fly. Whatever the plane, whatever the mission." His only truly in the squadron was Lieutenant Samuel Buck Washington, his wingman and best friend since their days in flight school. Buck, a jovial man with a quick wit and an even quicker trigger finger, had always stood by James. "They just don't get it, Black," Buck would shy, clapping him on the shoulder. "They see the skin, not the pilot. But you're the best damn pilot I know, and that Tigercat will sing for you, just you wait." James appreciated Buck's unwavering faith, but the weight of expectation, and the constant undercurrent of prejudice, was a heavy load. He knew he wasn't just flying for himself, he was flying for every black man who dreamed of soaring, for every barrier yet to be broken. He often thought of the biblical story of David and Goliath, a small, underestimated shepherd boy facing a giant warrior. In his mind, the giant wasn't just the enemy in the sky, but the systemic prejudice that sought to ground him, and the too advanced Tigercat itself, a mechanical Goliath that seemed to mock his every attempt at mastery. His initial flights in the Tigercat were a struggle. The plane bucked and roared, fighting him at every turn. He pushed it to its limits, feeling the immense forces, the shuddering of the airframe, the constant threat of a stall. He spent hours in the cockpit studying the manuals, memorizing every switch, every gauge. He practiced landings until his arms ached, trying to coax the beast onto the runway with a feather-like touch. Hartley watched it from the tower, his arms crossed, a perpetual frown itch on his face. "He's pushing it too hard," he'd muttered to his adjutant. "That plane needs a delicate hand, not brute force." But James knew that brute force was sometimes necessary to break through. He believed in the power of perseverance, a lesson instilled in him by his grandmother, who always told him, "Sean, faith ain't just believing when things are easy. It's believing when everything tells you to quit." One afternoon, after a particularly rough landing that nearly ended in a ground loop, James found himself in the intelligence office, reviewing reconnaissance photos. A young woman with sharp, intelligent ears and an air of quiet competence looked up from her desk. This was Sarah Chen, an intelligence officer whose reputation for meticulous analysis preceded her. She had a way of seeing things others missed. "Captain Morrison," she sighed, her voice calm and clear. "I've been watching your flight logs. You're pushing that Tigercat harder than anyone else in the squadron." James braced himself for another lecture, another thinly veiled doubt. "It's a powerful machine, Lieutenant Chen. It demands respect." Sarah smiled faintly. "Indeed. But it also demands a pilot who isn't afraid to learn its language. Most pilots try to force it. You, Captain, seem to be listening." She paused, her gaze thoughtful. "I've seen your combat records from North Africa. You have an uncanny ability to adapt, to find the weakness in an opponent, whether it's a Messerschmitt or a Zero. Don't let them tell you what you can't do, Captain. That plane isn't too advanced for you. It's waiting for you to show it who's boss. His words were a balm, or were a moment of genuine encouragement that cut through the constant hum of doubt. James felt a flicker of hope, a renewed determination. Sharahochen shall be in the color of his skin, she shall the pelot. He realized then that his fight wasn't just against the enemy or the machine, but against the perception of his own limitations, imposed by others. He was David and the James were many, but he had his sling, his faith, and now, a glimmer of understanding from unexpectedly. The Tiger Cat, with its immense power and daunting complexity, was his Goliath, and he was determined to bring it down. Subscribe to our channel for more untold Hudui stories. The first few weeks of combat patrols were a baptism by fire for James and the Tiger Cat. The squadron's primary mission was long-range escort for bomber formations and interdiction patrols over enemy-held islands. The Fshatf, with its impressive speed and heavy armament of 4 Korean cannons and 4 Ponchash caliber machine guns, was a formidable weapon, but its demanding nature meant that only a handful of pilots were truly comfortable with it. James was not yet one of them. He flew with a grim determination, his senses heightened, every muscle tensed. The Pacific skies were unforgiving. Japan's Zeros, nimble and deadly, swarmed like angry hornets. James found himself in dogfights where the Tiger Cat's raw speed and firepower were a blessing, but its lack of maneuverability at low speeds was a constant liability. He learned to use its strengths, boomans and tactics, diving on targets, and using its superior climb rate to escape, but he yearned for the intuitive control he'd had with his previous aircraft. Colonel Hartley's doubts persisted, fooled by James' less-than-perfect combat record in the Tiger Cat. While he had several confirmed kills, he also had close calls, near stalls, and a few instances where he had to break off engagements due to the plane's unpredictable behavior. Morrison, you're flying the Tiger Cat like it's a Tibiok Julish, Hartley barked after one mission where James had barely avoided a stall during a tight turn. This isn't a dogfighter, it's a heavy hitter. You need to respect its limitations. James bit back a retort. He was respecting its limitations, he was also trying to push past them, to find the hidden potential he knew was there. He spent his efforts poring over flight manuals, sketching diagrams, and even dismantling parts of the engine with the ground crew, trying to understand the Tiger Cat's intricate mechanics. He saw the plane not as a collection of parts, but as a living entity, a challenge to be understood, not just flown. Buck, ever loyal, tried to shield James from the worst of Hartley's criticism. He's learning, Colonel, Buck would argue. That plane's a handful for anyone. Give him time. But time was a luxury in wartime. The Japan's air forces, though slowly being pushed back, still had formidable aces. Intelligence reports spoke of Major Kenji Tanaka, a legendary Japanese pilot known as the Joust of the Marianas, who flew a modified HIM-0 with uncanny skill. Tanaka was said to have over Ponchash kills, a true Goliath in the skis, and his presence cast a long shadow over every patrol. The thought of facing Tanaka and the still-mastered Tiger Cat sent a chill down James' spine, a stark reminder of the impossible odds. Sharahochen, however, continued to be a great source of support. She would often seek James out, not to offer platitudes, but to share insights gleaned from intelligence. Tanaka's tactics are predictable in their unpredictability, she explained one evening, tracing a flight path on a map. He uses the sun, the clouds, and the terrain to his advantage. He's a master of deception. But he also has a pattern, he always goes for the lead aircraft, the perceived strongest link. So, he's looking for the biggest target, James mused. The Goliath. Sharaho nodded. Exactly. And he's never faced a Tiger Cat. Its speed and firepower might surprise him, if you can control it. Head emphasis on, if you can control it, was subtle, but it resonated. James found solace in his faith. Every night, before turning in, he would read from a small, worn Bible his grandmother had given him. The story of David and Goliath was a constant source of inspiration. David didn't fight Goliath with Goliath's weapons, he used what he had, his skill, his faith, and his unconventional approach. James realized he couldn't fight Tanaka's nimble Zero with the Tiger Cat's maneuverability. He had to fight him with the Tiger Cat's strengths, its speed, its climb, its devastating firepower, and his own unique understanding of the machine. One morning, during a routine patrol, they encountered a small formation of Japanese bombers escorted by Zeros. James, leading the flight, spotted Tanaka's distinctive Zero, a black tail with a white lightning bolt, at the head of the enemy formation. This was at the moment of truth. "Buck, Tanaka's here," James' voice was calm over the radio, betraying none of the adrenaline coursing through him. "Stay on my wing. We hit them hard and fast." James pushed the Tiger Cat to its limits, diving into the enemy formation. The twin engines screamed, the airframe vibrated violently. He targeted a bomber, his cannon spitting fire, tearing it apart in a spectacular explosion. But Tanaka was already on his tail, a blur of black and white, his Zero a tiny, deadly insect. James tried a tight turn, but the Tiger Cat shuddered, threatening to stall. He recovered just in time, feeling the cold sweat on his brow. Tanaka was too fast, too agile. He broke off, using the Tiger Cat's speed to gain distance, then climbed steeply, hoping to draw Tanaka into a vertical fight where the Tiger Cat's powerful engines would give him an advantage. Tanaka, however, was no fool. He disengaged, disappearing into the clouds, just once more. James had survived, but he hadn't won. The encounter left him shaken, a stark reminder of the gap between his potential and his current mastery of the Tiger Cat. The Goliath had shown its face, and James knew he needed to find his stone. Like this video, if you believe in overcoming impossible odds. The encounter with Tanaka solidified James' resolve. He knew he couldn't afford another near miss. The Tiger Cat wasn't just a plane, it was an extension of himself, and he had to learn its every nuance, every whisper of its engines, every tremor of its wings. He began to spend even more time with the ground crew, learning about the hydraulic systems, the engine's full mixture, the subtle adjustments that could make the difference between life and death. He even started flying simulated dogfights against Buck, who flew a more agile PBO Akano Mustang, forcing James to adapt the Tiger Cat's heavy frame to evasive maneuvers. Colonel Hartley, though still outwardly skeptical, began to notice James' relentless dedication. He saw the grease stains on James' uniform, the late nights spent in the hangar, the meticulous notes James kept on every flight. "Morrison's obsessed with that plane," Hartley remarked to his adjutant, a hint of grudging respect in his voice. "Either hell break it, or it'll break him." Sharaho-chan provided crucial intelligence. She had analyzed Tanaka's recent engagements, identifying a pattern. Tanaka often operated alone out with a small, light flight, preferring to pick off stragglers or lead aircraft. He was a hunter, patient and deadly. "He's looking for a challenge, Captain," Sharaho explained. "He's looking for someone to owe his limits against. And he knows you're flying the Tiger Cat." James understood. Tanaka saw him as a worthy opponent, a new Goliath to conquer. But James was determined to turn the tables. He was David, and he would use his unique weapon. He realized that the Tiger Cat's too advanced nature wasn't a weakness, but a strength. If he could unlock its speed, its climb rate, its sheer destructive power, these were his stones. He just needed to learn how to wield them. His breakthrough came during a particularly grueling training exercise. He was practicing high-speed dives and pull-ups, trying to master the Tiger Cat's tendency to lose control at the apex of a climb. He pushed the plane harder than ever before, feeling the forces crush him into his seat, the engine screaming in protest. Just as he thought he would black out, a sudden, intuitive understanding clicked. He adjusted the trim, feathered the throttle, and instead of fighting the plane, he flowed with it, letting its immense power carry him through the maneuver with a grace he hadn't thought possible. It was like finding the right home of a wild beast, taming it not through force, but through understanding. From that moment on, James' flying transformed. He wasn't just flying the Tiger Cat, he was dancing with it. He learned to use its weight as momentum, its speed as a weapon, its powerful engines to escape danger or gain an advantage. He discovered that by carefully managing his energy, he could make the Tiger Cat perform maneuvers that defied its heavy frame. He was no longer just a pilot, he was a master of the machine. His combat missions became legendary. He racked up kills with a newfound confidence, his Tiger Cat a blur of speed and fire. He became known for his daring, for his ability to appear out of nowhere, strike with devastating force, and disappear before the enemy could react. The other pilots, even Colonel Hartley, began to look at him with a mixture of awe and respect. The whispers of "too advanced" were replaced by "Black's a wizard in a Tiger Cat." Then came the mission that would define his legacy. A large Japanese convoy, heavily escorted, was spotted heading towards a crucial supply island. The Tinshubi Leeson squadron was tasked with interdiction. James, leading a flight of 4 Tiger Cats, was assigned to clear the skies of enemy fighters. As they approached the convoy, a swarm of Zeros rose to meet them, and at their head, unmistakable, was Tanaka's black-tailed Zero. "Tanak's here," James announced, his voice calm and steady. "Lock, stay tight. We're going in." This time, James didn't hesitate. He pushed the Tiger Cat into a screaming dive, targeting Tanaka directly. Tanaka, expecting the usual Boomenzum, tried to evade, but James was too fast, too precise. He didn't just dive, he used the Tiger Cat's immense speed to close the distance rapidly, then pulled up sharply, gaining altitude, forcing Tanaka to follow. It was a vertical fight, exactly what James wanted. Tanaka, in his nimble Zero, tried to outrun the Tiger Cat, but the shot's powerful twin engines were superior. James gained on him, his gunsight locked. Tanaka, realizing his mistake, tried a desperate maneuver, a tight turn to get on James' tail. But James anticipated it. He cut his throttle, deployed his flaps, and executed a lightning-fast snap roll, bringing his guns to bear just as Tanaka completed his turn. A burst of Kuriman cannon fire ripped through Tanaka's Zero. Smoke poured from its engine, and the black-tailed fighter spiraled downwards, a fairy comet against the blue Pacific ski. The battle was far from over, but the psychological blow to the enemy was immense. With Tanaka gone, the remaining Zeros lost their cohesion, and James' flight, now flying with renewed ferocity, systematically dismantled the escort. James, having faced his Goliath and emerged victorious, felt a profound sense of accomplishment, not just for the kill, but for mastering the beast that had once seemed impossible. He had found his stone, and he had used it well. Leave a comment telling us about heroes in your family history. The news of Major Kenji Tanaka's demise at the hands of Captain James Morrison spread like wildfire through the Pacific Theater. It was a victory that transcended the immediate tactical gain. It was a moral booster, a symbol that even the most formidable enemy could be defeated. For James, it was the culmination of months of struggle, a testament to his unwavering faith and relentless dedication. Colonel Hartley, who had watched the entire engagement from the command center, was a changed man. When James landed, Hartley was waiting on the tarmac, a rare smile on his face. "Morrison," Hartley sighed, extending a hand, "that was magnificent. I've never seen anyone fly a Tiger Cat like that. You didn't just fly it, you owned it." James shook his hand, a quiet sense of pride swelling within him. "Thank you, sir." It took some convincing, but the old girl finally listened. "She didn't listen, Captain," Hartley corrected, his eyes twinkling. "You tad hit to sing and I, for one, am glad I was here to hear the music." It was a full and unequivocal acknowledgement, a barrier finally broken. Over the next 2 years, James Morrison continued to fly with distinction. The shot Tiger Cat, once deemed too advanced for him, became his legend. He flew countless missions, each one adding to his growing tally of combat hours and confirmed kills. He became known as Black Top Gun, a pilot whose skill was matched only by his courage. He led his squadron through some of the fiercest battles of the war, always at the forefront, always pushing the limits of his machine and himself. Buck Washington remained his loyal wingman, a constant presence on his left, a testament to their unbreakable bond. "You know, Black," Buck would often shy, "I always knew you had it in you. You just needed to show them. And you showed them good." Sharaha Chen continued to provide invaluable intelligence, her keen insights often giving James the edge he needed. She became a trusted confidant, a silent partner in his aerial triumphs. She saw in him not just a pilot, but a symbol of what was possible when talent and determination were allowed to flourish, regardless of societal constraints. As the war drew to a close in 1945, James Morrison reached a remarkable milestone: Dushu combat missions. It was a number few pilots ever achieved, a testament to his longevity, his skill, and his sheer will to survive and fight. On his Dushuth mission, a routine patrol over a recently secured island, he looked out at the vast, endless expanse of the Pacific, a ski he had once seen as a battleground, now a canvas of triumph. He thought of his grandmother, heard words of faith and the story of David and Goliath. He had faced his giants, prejudice, a challenging aircraft, and a formidable enemy, and he had overcome them all. His journey was more than just a series of aerial victories, it was a profound statement. He had proven that skill knows no color, that courage transcends prejudice, and that faith, even in the face of impossible odds, can move mountains, or in his case, make a two advanced fighter jets. He had opened doors for those who would follow, paving the way for a more equitable future in the military and beyond. After the war, James Morrison returned home a hero, not just to his community, but to a nation slowly beginning to confront its own prejudices. He continued to serve, becoming an instructor, sharing his unparalleled knowledge of aviation and his philosophy of perseverance. His story became a legend, whispered in hangars and told in hushed tones, a reminder that true strength comes not from brute force, but from an unyielding spirit and an unwavering belief in oneself, even when others doubt. The tiger cat, the beast he had tamed, became a symbol of his triumph, a testament to the black Top Gun who dared to fly higher than anyone thought possible. Subscribe now to never miss the stories of forgotten heroes.